Hey guys, good morning.
Just kidding. Here I am. Oh, dropping the kit. Hey, morning, guys. How's it going? Starting off a little later than I had planned to, so apologies for that. Most of you don't know that though, so it's okay. But if you're one of my Patreon supporters, I did let those guys know that I was planning to start around 9:30. It's now 9:50. Stuff happens. So, good morning. Today is a new episode of Gunpla Critique. Haven't done one of these for a while just because, been doing moving stuff and all that. Apologies to my Patreon supporters who this is for, but those guys know what's been going on too. But anyway, still just appreciate their patience as always. So, try to do these episodes about once a month. But just wasn't well. January just finished. This is kind of supposed to fill in for January, but we'll try to do another one before the end of February. See how things going. It's going to be kind of crazy, just because hopefully, like closing on our house, probably like Monday or something, and then we got a bunch of work to do, like on our house as we're getting ready to move in. So February might also be kind of crazy, but anyway. So yeah, if you guys want to submit works for future episodes, you can check out my Patreon page. The link is down below. We're going to take a look at, we have 5 people's work to look at today, but a couple of the guys sent a lot of stuff. So we'll start off taking a look at Justin's here first. Justin only sent a couple pictures, so we only have a couple pictures, but even though it's only a couple pictures, there's kind of a lot to discuss about Justin's work here. So let me put this up on the screen here for you guys. So we'll start with Justin because he had the least amount of photos, and then we'll work our way up to, I think it was Ben, had a bunch of photos of a bunch of different works his. So we'll take a look at all of those as much as we can. We should be able to get through everything. I'm not on any like time constraint at the moment, but there is a lot of stuff to look at. All right. So here's Justin's. So we have 2 works to look at from Justin's today. It's 2 pictures of this diorama work in progress that he's working on, and this RE Gundam Mark III that he's working on. This one I believe is done. He just mentioned in his email that he's still working on a wall mount for this. So, and he also said in his email that he apologized for not having better photos. But we'll use what we got here. Take a look at what he's got. Just first off on the Mark III, just because it's relatively more it's more straightforward than this diorama that he's got going on here with the Master Grade Barbatos. There's more we can discuss about this. This one basically just did a nice painted job here on this, did a little bit of weathering. He said he did like what did he say in his email? I've got it right here. Some weathering powder, some edge highlighting, some enamel highlights, water slides, all that good stuff. So pretty straightforward, like lightly weathered build. I'd love to see some more photos. So maybe on the next episode, Justin, if you feel like it, if you don't have any other stuff to submit, or even if you do, he mentioned that he doesn't have the remote for his lights or something. So if you can take some more photos, I would be interested in seeing some more photos of this in the next episode because it looks nice. The Gundam Mark III, interesting kit. I have always been kind of curious to pick up the kit. There's aspects of the design that I like and aspects that I don't like. In general, I do like the RE line, so that's kind of made me always want to check out the kit. But just the design, I'm not sure about the design. I don't know. Maybe if I like got it and tried to like kit bash it with something, I don't know, like get rid of the parts that I don't like and replace them with different parts. I don't know. Kit bashing it with I don't know, something like a Master Grade Hyakushiki or something maybe could be kind of cool. But no, it looks nice. The little slight weathering, and like especially like the highlighting on here. You get some nice color tones in there, and those colors, some good like shadowing around some of these bits there. The detail painting looks nice, just a little bit. It's not like overdone. You know, this little bits are highlighted there with some detail painting, so it looks all good. I like it. We'll hopefully get some more photos of that. Maybe we'll take a look at that again in the next episode. This is a work in progress. He said he's still going to add some more things to this diorama. I like the snowman though. I don't know if that's a permanent addition. That might be temporary, but we'll see. For this one, he said the title of it was Wild Hunt, and the little wolf mech, if you guys are wondering, is armored. Is the Shadow Wolf. That's what that is. It is a kit. We actually have it here. I've not built one. It looks like an interesting kit though. I'll have to build one up. And then the snow effects on there. I think the snow is actually quite well done. Some parts of it, like the thicker parts, it does look kind of a little bit globby. I don't know, not like thick snow, but it looks, I don't know, like wood glue or something like that. You know what I mean? But on the actual kit, I like how it's like very light. You didn't like try to load up like a ton of snow on the kit, which I think a lot of times when you see it like that, it ends up just not looking good, not looking very realistic, like too heavy snow. So I like that it's kind of light on the kit itself, on the kits themselves. The base too is cool. The stuff that you have piled up on the base, because a lot of times people will just like have just the simple base and then like not really worry about the underside of that. But I do like how there's some attention paid to the underside of that. Tried to add just kind of a bunch of junk essentially. Not, I don't mean that in a bad way, but just a bunch of stuff, you know, going on underneath, just so it's more than just like an empty space or something, you know. So I think that's kind of cool. The tree is also a nice addition there to the background. I'm sorry, the photos are out of order, so we're gonna have to keep going past the photo of the Mark III there. The tree adds some nice composition to the piece there, and I know he said one of the things that he mentioned he wanted to add was a what's it called? Not 30 minutes missions, the Kotobukiya version of that hexagear. I think it was that hexagear like a bird kit. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but I think he was saying he wanted to add one or two of those like up on the tree up there, which I think will be very cool. So he said this is the first in a series of dioramas based off of Norse mythology, which I know nothing about, so I won't be able to speak on that. Just as a piece in general, though, I like it. I like just the design of it. I think is pretty cool. And just for something that's just kind of neutral, not necessarily like an action pose or anything. That said, I was curious about adding the effect part on the eye. I think it's fine, but the effect part seems like it's for like showing movement, right? So like you use the effect part on the eye like when you want to display it in like an action pose or something, right? But because it's not an action pose, I'm wondering if the effect part is meant to just be like sort of like just part of the design. And I'm guessing that's probably something to do with the Norse mythology aspect of this that I probably am missing out on. So that's probably what's going on with that. And so I don't know if it's like if this is meant to be like a mobile suit or if it's meant to be just like a statue. Either way, could be cool. But I'm not too clear on like the intent with that. Doesn't matter too much, but like if it is meant to be a statue, for example, maybe add like a little sign here at the bottom, like to the diorama, because you know, like statues always have some sort of like sign in the front saying what it is. Something like that, just to make it clear one way or the other. Or if it's meant to be a mobile suit, maybe add like a little pilot figure down there or something. And I don't know if you're playing with the scale at all. If these are meant to be like both in 1 to 100 scale, just because of the size of the tree in the back, I would assume it's not really necessarily meant to be 100 scale. That would be a gigantic tree. So if you're playing with the scale, I think that's fine. You could add a pilot figure. It doesn't have to be a 100 scale pilot figure. Add like a 1/35 scale figure, which would be like maybe like up to about the knee or something like that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a pilot. of that mobile suit. But anyway, you could kind of make it look like just something that might make it a little bit more clear if it's meant to be like a statue or an actual like robot that's been like in use, piloted or something. I don't know, just a suggestion, but overall I think it's looking good. The color scheme I like. The browns on there. I do like, it's kind of hard to tell on the chest, but it looks like you opted for just like covering up the power symbol, just turning that into just like a just triangle shaped accent there. So a small modification. The this kind of like long streaking dry brushing and black. At first I was looking at it, I thought it maybe is a little bit heavy, but I actually kind of like it because it's used not everywhere. Because if you had it like here and here and here and here and here and here, all over the entire thing, it would definitely be too much. And I think it's close to being a little bit much, but I think it's used, sparingly enough that I think it is looking cool. So that heavy streaking, really dark streaking on there, it adds some nice contrast to it. So I think it's almost too much, in my opinion, but it still looks good. I like it. So there you go. There's Justin's works. As he said, it's not quite done yet. So yeah, hopefully both of these, maybe next episode, he can get some more photos to us if this is done at that point, and maybe if this one is also mounted as he's planning on mounting it, and we can see what other stuff is added onto that. This rust effect on the weapon here also looks pretty nice. Looks pretty cool. The rusted parts of that, the scratches. The scratches are also, I feel the same about like with the streaking. It's almost too much because a lot of times you'll see that when people add like damage to like swords or like Barbatos weapons like this mace, or like the big mace of like the Barbatos Lupus Rex or something, for example. And you see people start adding like those like actual physical damage, scratches and chips and stuff like that. It's easy to go overboard with that. You really have to kind of know where to stop to strike a good balance of it not being too much damage on there and just looking like you just went crazy with your knife, just scratching it up for no reason. But it's close to that. But I think it looks good as it is. So I think you picked a good place to stop with the physical damage on that. But there you go. So that was Justin's works. Let's take a look at I think we'll take a look at Mike's next, because then the next three after that I'll have, like I said, a lot more photos. So Mike's is just all photos here of one build that he did. Put this up on screen. Here we go. And this one, he did have a name for it as well. This one was the Donetta, which is pretty cool. Like that. Let's see. Just refer back to his email as well. Make sure I don't miss out on any relevant information that he shared about this. So, work in progress shots on a recent build. Advanced Zeta inspired design here based off of the Woundwort. So it's using parts from the Pluton, the Woundwort, Graves variants, and all that you'll see here with this. Okay, so that's basically it. Just kit bash here. I really like it. I think it was very nice choices as far as which parts to use from different kits while still maintaining like the overall look and style of Advanced Zeta. The Gray's chest and the Gray's leg parts, I think, fit really nicely with the design. And of course, the shoulder parts from the Pluton and the arms of the Pluton, of course, match pretty well. The Pluton's like, it's half 00 and half Advanced Zeta kind of already in its design features and everything. So that made sense. So here's like the unpainted look. Here's the back, and then our first couple pictures here are of the front. So it's mostly just kit bash. You can see use some putty here to extend this bit to make that a little bit more pointed there. And I think this is, let's see. Okay, so this is maybe an earlier work in progress that doesn't have that. Just has like, I think that's the, which grades would that be? The, well, no. Did the Schwalbe grays have that? Is that right? I could be wrong about that. It's been a while. But he added this part there on the top of there. Honestly, I'm not sure which I like better. I do kind of like it just like that with the thruster bells, but then he kind of hid those behind this plate there on the front, which I think it does also end up looking good on the finish gate there. So either way, I think it probably would have been fine, but yeah, interesting. But I do like that. That looks cool. The weapon also is quite interesting looking. These weapons here, sort of like SMG, kind of like Team SMG kind of looking weapons, and the lance weapons also very cool. Those added on there. So yeah, I think you did really good in just like the overall styling of this. I really like it. The decal works out really nice. Looks like mostly a lot of like HIQ decals. I think those might be some mecha decals in there as well. So you have a mix of those. Or they might be all mecha decals, actually, or a mix of things. But anyway, yeah, a mix. It looks like. But no, decal works out really nice. The colors, the mix of the kind of metallic dark blue up here on the shoulders, it's kind of hard to see in the photos. But how it's mostly just kind of your matte finish, and it's actually not all that matte. It's kind of like a satiny, which does look really nice on this dark blue, like here on the legs. But then you have this metallic blue used up here just on the shoulder parts. It's also, I like that, a nice mix of metallic and non-metallic. It's mostly non-metallic, and you just have a little bit of metallic blue used up here on the top and the top of the torso there as well. But really nice balance of that, I think. The finish is really nice. Nice photos, nice posing, of course, as well. So yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of Mike's works now over the past year or two or so. And this is probably my favorite among them. I'd have to go back and look, but I do really like this. I think it turned out really nice. So I know he does do a lot of kit bash work. He did a small kit bash for the recent artifact contest, and for other, he's entered in a few other different contests as well. So I know he really likes kit bashing. But yeah, I gotta say, this is probably definitely one of the best ones. Very nice. I really like the accent with the orange here on the back as well. That's nice. You gotta have like the yellow orange accents for any advanced Zeta build. So really nice balance of those accents as well too. Just a little bit on the chest, the head, the feet, and then a little bit on the back. So kept a really nice balance of like 5% accent color and then like 95% like your other main color, something like that. Whereas if you tried to add some of that orange, like there is like little bits here in like these thruster details, and here I think on the front of the shoulders is also in that same color. It's kind of in the shadow there, but yeah, so like there's a little bit, but could have gone overboard with that, which is something I see people do from time to time, like judging just how much of their accent colors they want to try to force it into other places as well. And this is good. It doesn't feel forced. So yeah, I really like it. Not too much else I can say about it. Everything else looks quite clean. And yeah, the kit bashing of the different parts flows really well. So, you know, that's always kind of the difficult thing about kit bashing is you really like these legs and you really like these torso, but then you have to make them actually fit together, not physically, but I mean like stylistically. Make it so that you can transition between parts of completely different kits, but it, you know, looks cohesive. It doesn't look like it's different parts from different kits. It ends up looking like it's a kit just as it is, and I think it does do that. So I would say it's successful in that. Very nice one, Mike. I like it. All right, so let's take a look at the next one then here. I think we'll go to John next, and we have, I think, 2 or 3 different builds to look at from John. a Zoids kit, which we don't see too often. Just cool. And this one. Okay. All right. So first up, it's this Shinanju, and you guys will have to help me out. I forget what's the name of this conversion kit. It was a plastic conversion kit, not a resin conversion kit, which was quite unique. This plastic conversion kit for the master grade Shinanju. I'm pretty certain that's what this is. Oh, I can check his email, see if he mentioned anything about it. Let's see. From John. Not that one. Takumi. Yeah, it was Takumi, right? Yeah, Takumi Shinanju. Painted using 2K gloss black and 2K clear coat from Splash Paints. Okay, that's a paint brand. I'm familiar with the name, but I've never used the paints before. Also leveraged chrome from Gaia and clear red from Anchoret and Mr. Hobby. Attempt appreciating by 2 gloss black and then shooting the center with Gaia chrome and leaving the edges black. Yes. Okay, so yeah, I know it's a technique I've never tried, just because, as you guys know, I normally don't really mess around with the metallic stuff. Silence that. But yeah, it is an interesting way to pre-shade metallic parts. So in case you guys were wondering if that was not clear what he's talking about, you paint black first, and then what you would normally do for just like a straight up metallic paint job is then just on top of your gloss black, then just do like a chrome or a silver or something, and then your clear red over the top of that to make it look like metallic red. But what he did, instead of he did black and then just full chrome over the whole thing, just chrome like highlighting basically. So build up the chrome around the center of the parts, leaving it kind of black around the edges. And that's kind of similar to what you would do like if you're just doing a normal pre-shading, but then did the clear red over the top. And it sounded like he said he used a couple different clear reds, because he said Anchoret and Mr. Hobby, so it might be two-tone red. And it's kind of hard to see just because it's so shiny everywhere if it is two-tone red, or I don't know if you mix them or use them on like in different parts. But anyway, it looks like it's mostly all the same color, but I could be wrong. It is just kind of hard to tell because of the design. It's just like stuff everywhere. It's a very busy design, and the fact that it's shiny and metallic, it's not super easy to tell how the two different clear reds were used. But I don't know, the design of this conversion kit didn't really appeal to me. Like I said, I just think it was like kind of very busy. So it's not like my personal taste and style. But I mean, this looks great. Definitely. So, I mean, definitely did some justice. The gold and the silver accents and everything do look really nice as well for the frame. I believe those are, I don't know if those were included with the kit or if those were additional like metal parts to replace the pipes, but obviously they're not original. So this conversion kit, I think it just like uses basically the frame, and then I don't know if it uses any of the armor, because all of the armor looks different. Even like on conversion kits, usually like pretty inconsequential parts like bicep armor, like maybe this inner piece of the forearm armor might be like just reused from the original kit, but I don't know, it looks all different. That bicep armor, maybe it's kind of hard to tell, but yeah, it's basically replacing all of the armor, looks like, mostly. And I'm not familiar with the kit just because I never, like I said, the design didn't really appeal to me, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. But it looks like what they've done with that kit, now that I'm actually taking a closer look at it, is they made it like the RG kit, where the gold and the black are separate parts in there. I don't really necessarily like that about the RG kit, to be honest. I prefer the look of it as like a solid part, and then you have to reverse wash or use the decals or something. But it has kind of like a sharper look to it, where this just looks a little bit different. But that's just talking about the kit in general, not this particular build anyway. Just the kit generally. But here, yeah, I mean, like that gold looks really nice. Looks super smooth. And just checking in on the chat here. See, you guys are saying the fuel tanks. Yeah, the fuel tanks are very unique. Where's a better picture there? Yeah, really unique styling. I mean, on the whole thing in general, the styling is very unique looking, but especially those fuel tanks, yeah. But I mean, painting works great. Decals look really nice. Did he mention in the email about the decals? What were those? Maybe they're probably decals included with the kit, I guess. But yeah, again, I'm not familiar with the kit. Sorry to say. But yeah, looks very nice. And then he also has a Barbatos. This is a resin conversion kit, I believe. Let's see his email on this. Yeah, resin kit, Lab Zero Barbatos Lupus Rex. Did some custom scribing on top of the existing resin kit and added additional detailing via parts. Okay. So he did, aside from this being just a resin conversion kit on the Barbatos, he did do some extra scribing and added some extra details in there as well on the Lupus Rex. So this would be on the kit. The conversion kit is for the Lupus Rex, and then it just makes like okay, interesting. It makes the Lupus Rex just kind of a little bit less extreme in its proportions, I guess. Like the arms are not as huge as they were originally, which is pretty interesting. The detail here, like it always bothers me when the logos or like the text or something on the shoulders is not horizontal. So like the logo here being at an angle and the text here being at an angle is triggering my OCD, but it's just a personal thing. I always like those to be, vertical looking, or like perpendicular with the kit. Anyway, to be in line, not diagonal. But yeah, again, I wish I was more familiar with the kit because it's a wild looking kit. The like knee parts are huge. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, very interesting redesign of the Barbatos Lupus Rex. As far as here's another picture of the Shinanju. Sorry, they're a little bit out of order, I guess, slightly. As far as just like the work done on this, I mean, it's a much more straightforward paint job on this. Doesn't look like there's any kind of pre-shading or anything really. I think most of the work just went to just the kit itself, and then, like you said, adding some details and things. But for just a clean paint job on this, and it looks nice. All the decal application all looks very smooth. I'm just talking about just the alignment of the decal on the shoulders there. But as far as just like the application of the decals, I mean, no silvering, everything looks really nice and smooth. So the finish is great. Colors look nice. You got some multiple tones of blue, but it's not like too in your face. It's, what do I want to say? Yeah, it's done in a nice way. Can't think of the word that I'm trying to say there for that, but it looks nice. It's not too obvious anyway. And then the same thing with the two-tone whites. Like it's really close to being like that the gray is too dark, I think. Where you want your multiple tones to be pretty close so that like from a distance, it still looks mostly white, and you look at it up close and you can see that there's multiple tones there. So like that light gray is bordering on being a little bit too dark, in my opinion. But no, I think it looks good. There's actually a few different colors of gray in there, to be precise. Looks like there's the white, and then this light gray, and then a little bit darker light gray, and then like the really dark gray. But that I think is just meant to look like that's not meant to look like multiple tone white. That's just meant to look like a gray detail here and there. And like, so here on the leg, on the front of the knee, you can see you got multiple tones of that gray. But no, I think it looks good. A lot of times and if you've watched these episodes in the past or any other kind of critiquing I've done in the past where it's talking with Josh about different builds or whatever the case may be. We've talked about it a million times about how like doing two-tone white or something, you really have to be careful about not making the tones too contrasting. They have to be pretty close, and I think it looks good. Yeah, so nice. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the original kit, so I can't tell where he added panel lines and what's original to the kit. I can guess, but yeah, it would just be a guess. So I guess that's good. I can't tell what was added and what was original. So that means that whatever he added to it blended well enough with the original design that it doesn't stick out. I would guess maybe like these lines here on the backpack, and then maybe these lines going around on the shoulder here, possibly just kind of following the shape of the shoulder, possibly, among other things. But yeah, I think whatever the case is, when you add stuff to a kit, but then in the finished product, it's not easy to identify what was added and what wasn't, I think that's successful. That's a sign that what you added works well, because it doesn't end up being obvious that it's something added to it. The just design of the V-fin is really cool on this as well, and that gold looks really nice. I like that. So very cool. All right, and then his third build here is of this kit, and I forget who makes this. It's like a it's like a detailed up version of the Zoids, the HMM Berserk Fury. So there's just like the armor, I believe it's mostly on the head, and I think on some of the other armor parts, there's just like, they changed up the design a little bit, kind of added a little bit more detail, made it kind of a bit more kind of edgy looking. But it's essentially the HMM Berserk Fury. Okay, so here's just it snapped up, and then we have a bunch of work in progress photos here of this. So you can see like it just has a bunch of seam lines. So there's with the seam line open, and then with the seam line fixed on that. Here's a seam line on this toe part. I think that's what that is. So fixing that, fixing seam lines. So a bunch of seam line removal work to be done on this. Here on this armor piece. Then just a bunch of detail painting. These kits, if you guys have never built an HMM kit, they just have so much detail in them, inside and outside. Usually not quite as much on the outside armor pieces as what's going on under the hood, but like the frame of them is incredibly detailed. So if you guys like that, if you like painting lots of detail, you can really go to town on these Zoids kits. So there's masking, more masking, and see, like I have a lot of respect for people that do this, that mask these tiny little details, and especially stuff like this one here. He masked this just to paint that like thin, this gray and like this thin little line of gray there. I would have just hand painted that. I do not have the patience to mask tiny little stuff like that when I can just hand paint it. But yeah, for people that do that, you get my respect, because I just can't stand masking, especially something that tiny. You do like 20, 30 minutes of masking work, and then like with the airbrush and done. That's all. And then what if you mess it up? Then what if your masking was not right? And then you're gonna have a hell of a time, unless you're like spraying enamel over a lacquer. And it's easier to fix that. But then at that point, why don't we just hand paint it? Which is what I would do. So anyway, more seam line removal here. I think that's the headpiece there, I'd imagine. And then on these like joint parts and stuff, it's just seams all over the place on those. So yeah, there's a ton of prep work to do on this, even before you get into the painting. And then once you get to the painting, there's a ton of work to do, just like I said, with all the detail in it. So like here's a look at the painted frame. You guys can see there's just a ton of stuff painted. And I've seen builds that are like even way more extreme than this. I mean, like this is a lot of detail painting done on this. But as you guys can see, there's just so much detail here. You could go even more if you really wanted to, like get real crazy about it. But it's pretty extreme. And a lot of that is going to be covered up by the armor, but you know, with these kits, I find that surprisingly a lot of the frame is still visible, even once the armor is on there. So that's a good thing, and that's the oh, I'm going up too far. That is a good reason. Sometimes people ask whether you should build a kit before painting or not. This is a perfect example of why it's a good idea to build a kit first before painting it, because you can know exactly how much of the frame is going to be exposed. I mean, you could look at pictures, I guess, but you have a good sense of which parts of the frame are eventually going to be showing and which are not. So if it was me on areas where the frame's not going to show, I wouldn't have bothered doing that much detail painting. So like here, like on the top of the thigh, for example, and let's take a look like here. So like all this, all that nice like chrome piping and stuff going on in there, it's all going to be covered. So I wouldn't have done that if it was me, but it makes for some really nice work in progress photos here showing the painted frame. Definitely. So yeah, here's the still work in progress, but like some finished painted parts. So you can take a look at here. Yeah, the painting is very nice. So some nice pre-shading here with that, and pre-shading this kind of like it's not white, it's definitely off-white. It's sort of like a very super light lavendery kind of color. It's really nice. So yeah, you can see like all the details up inside of there, and there's just tons of details around. Once again, the decals look great. So again, really nice finish, really nice application of the decals on there. By finish, I'm talking about like just the paint and top coat and decals combine, all of that. So maybe a little bit, it's kind of hard to tell just from the photos, but like a little bit of staining on here, like from the panel line wash. But it's going to be pretty inconsequential, pretty unnoticeable when you're taking a look at the piece as a whole. Like once we zoom out and see like the full thing, you're not going to notice stuff like that. But when you look at it closely at that particular part, you might be able to notice stuff like that. Yeah, you can see like some of the pre-shading, it looks, and it's kind of hard to tell just with the photo quality, but it looks a little bit grainy around the dark areas, which sometimes people go for that like intentionally, and like that's kind of the look that they're going for. Sometimes not. I think generally people want to be that to be a little bit smoother and not have much grain. But again, that's only if you're looking like really closely at certain areas. When you're looking at it at the whole piece as a whole, I think it's not that bad at all. I've seen it a lot worse. And this is like, yeah, it's only when we're like looking very closely at some of these. Because like here with this one, you can see it's smoother and you're not really seeing like around the edges where your shading is going on. You can see it's like a little bit grainy up here in these parts around there. But and again, I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. I would assume it's not intentional, and you know, it's just that is one of the hard things I think about pre-shading, avoiding that. So, you know, if you spray too, and it just depends on your paint, and depends on your mixture. It's hard to get a very thin layer of paint without getting that grain, and if you spray more paint, then you're going to just completely coat the whole thing, and then you don't have a pre-shade. So it's difficult, definitely. There you go. There's the finished product. Really cool design of I've never built a Berserk Fuhrer. It's definitely one of my favorite Zoids designs, and I haven't built that many Zoids kits in general. I really should build one of these at some point, just because it's one of my favorites. In a series that I don't actually really like that many of the designs, but I do like this one. I've built the Genosaur, which is a similar kit anyway. This one, I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. That looks like that his seam broke open again. I don't know if that's what he's showing in the photo here. Let's see. Stone Age Hero in the chat said, "I like the grain look for this. It gives it a Toku Kaiju feel." Yeah, like I said, sometimes that like grain effect is what you're going for, and like even people like Max Watanabe, who is like the originator of like the pre-shading technique. You can see it like in his works too. I mean, from time to time. So it just depends on what you're painting and depends on the look you're going for. Sometimes it's done like intentionally, or like it's left like that intentionally. This one, this photo, I'm not sure, but I think this is meant to be like a sad ending to the story, showing that the seam line broke open. I don't know, that I might be wrong in what we're looking at, but that looks like what we're looking at. It looks like that the seam broke. Oh no! Speaking of things breaking, my mic just fell down. Hang on, guys. Let me try to fix that. So, all right. Well, that could be a problem. I have to fix something here. Let's see. Give me just a second. I think I know what to do. All right, I think I got it. All right. Probably should have muted the mic while I was doing that. Hey, what's going on, Mike? I should have muted the mic while I was fixing that because probably the mic was banging around, probably making some bad sounds for you guys. Apologies. Hey, Mike, we already took a look at yours. I'm sorry to say. So if you want to go back and see the feedback on your work, you can go back, or you can go back a little later, Mike. But anyway, just finishing up here, taking a look at John's work. Awesome works there, John. Thank you as always for sharing those. Let's take a look then at Clifford's next here. Let me get this opened up. And we'll take a look at these. I think we had one or two works from Clifford. Yeah, two. One of which we've seen before, so it's like an update from his last work in progress. We'll see that. Here we go. So let's get this sized up for us here. So this one might look familiar to you guys, as if you've spent any time on Twitter, you've probably seen a master grade new Verka painted in this similar style. Let me check Clifford's email, what he said about this, if he mentioned about that at all. But it looks like basically what he did was try to emulate that look here on the RX-782. So yeah, I've been working on a build similar to Sui's new Gundam. His was much more successful than mine. I think I went a little too heavy with the colors, and some of the lines need correcting, but here it is as it is. I'm thinking of putting it on a base that has LEDs shining on it, maybe using the shield as a wall or something, not sure. Okay. So yeah, as he said, it's not quite as nice as the new Gundam. Yeah, I would agree. It's not quite as nice, but I think it's a really good attempt. Anyway, I would imagine it's not easy to do, and I don't know exactly how he did it. And I don't know exactly. It's something Josh and I have discussed multiple times. Exactly how Sui has done it on his new Gundam. And let me see. Actually, let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. Just for any of you who don't. Okay, here it is. Oh. No, let's see. Found one photo of it, but it's on Damboru. I don't want to okay. Well, it's better than nothing. At least you guys will have an idea of what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can find another photo here other than that real quick. There's something on Tumblr. Okay, this will work. Okay. Let me put this up on screen for you guys. This one. So here's the work that was the inspiration. In case any of you guys have never seen this before. But yeah, like I said, we've looked at this a few times on Twitter. Very cool. But yeah, I would imagine it's not easy to do. Like that. But yeah, some very fine lines and some the clear color on there. Also must be kind of tricky. So anyway, that's what it's based off of. Again, in case you guys weren't familiar, taking a look at this, it's not as nice, but like I said, I think it's a good first attempt, and it's something that you can definitely, try again. I think. Okay, yeah, I thought the photos were a little bit out of order. Again, sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I think it's a good first attempt. It still looks cool, either way. And then especially with this scene here, diorama scene. I think this is not how he's ultimately planning to display it, just kind of a test to see how it looks like in the dark with LEDs on it. And I think definitely putting on a base with some LEDs like coming up from the bottom, I think definitely would be very cool. So yeah, I would say go for that. Maybe even something like we have this. Well, I don't know. There's this base, like this hanger base that we have now actually here in the store. So if you just go on like the USA Gundam store website and if you search for just like hanger base or something like that, it should pop up with like a base that goes like around the Gundam. And that could be kind of cool because rather than just lights up from the bottom, then you could put some lights around, like going around the sides as well too. It doesn't come up like all the way up. It would come up to like around halfway around the Gundam, but then you could, like I said, have some lights coming around the sides and up from the bottom if you wanted to put a bunch of lights into it. I'm not sure ultimately how that would look because the Gundam itself kind of looks like it's meant to be sort of like an art piece, right? Not like a realistic mobile suit, but then like putting it in that kind of like realistic base scene makes it look like it's an actual, like it's supposed to be a mobile suit. Then it might be kind of a weird clash. The Gundam and the base would be kind of at odds, I think, stylistically. But it would be one option, one way to add more lights going around it. But you could figure something else out if that isn't appealing to you. But yeah, using the shield, I would continue the style onto the shield. He said maybe using the shield as a wall or something. I'm not sure what you mean in his email. He mentioned about that, but I'm not sure exactly what he means by that. But I think definitely I would like to see it with the shield and maybe with the beam rifle and everything. And definitely needs to be on some kind of base, whether you want to go like full artistic style on it, on like some nice like wood kind of pedestal or something. Or something. I don't know. You could even have like a a pedestal and making something just out of plot plate and then painting it to look like it's like marble or something could be kind of cool as well. And like with the shield, I think like what you could do is sometimes when you see like builds where they have the shield not like this with the shield attached on the arm, but it's like with the shield down on the ground and just like having the hand on the shield, you know, but not like up here, it'd be down here, but you know, having the shield on the ground. I think I can't remember. I know I've seen one just recently, but I can't remember. Anyway, I think that would be a good solution. How to like display the shield with that, having the shield not actually mounted on the arm, but it depends. And you could do the same thing with the beam rifle, or maybe having the beam rifle mounted onto the back skirt or something. I'm not sure if you want to use that. The beam sabers look a bit weird. I know that like being just like one solid piece, basically, there it might be hard to do the technique like you've done with the rest of the armor, but doing something with beam sabers I think might look good, just because now they just kind of look unfinished compared with the rest of it. So maybe adding a couple of lines on there and painting part of that, I don't know, in some different color or something. Maybe doing something with the beam sabers I think could look nice. Okay, and his other build he submitted here, like I said, we saw the early work in progress on this in the last episode. And now, obviously, still work in progress, is not finished yet, but we're seeing some more work on his Bondoc here, inspired by the Dragon's Heaven version of the Bondoc. And yeah, I think it's looking good. The details and the texture and stuff added onto like the skirt section is looking nice, and then all the tanks and everything underneath. What's the name of it? It's got a different name in Dragon's Heaven. It's not called a Bondoc. It's called something else. But Mike said I would frame it with a stained glass window arc. That would be cool. Yeah. What Mike mentioned about the Gundam here. Yeah. Like a box around it and like have the front having like some like kind of archway with some details, something around it, something like that could be kind of cool. Or just like not in front of it as a box, but just like kind of on the sides of it, something. Yeah, definitely. Something along those lines. I think it's a good idea. Definitely. Sort of go all in on the stained glass aspect of that. No, this, yeah. Let me check the email just to be sure. I believe this is also still work in progress and not finished as is, but I don't want to be wrong. Oh, completed. Oh, so it is completed. All right. Bondoc I've been working on. I tried some weathering on it and it started to feel like I just can't get the hang of weathering. More practice, I suppose. Anyway, hope all is well. Okay. Yes. So it is finished. All right. I wasn't sure just because it was still like kind of, that's not what I wanted to do. Here we are. Just because it's like still two-tone. But then when I was looking at it, I was thinking, oh, maybe it is finished. So yeah, it is finished here. The two-tone is interesting. It because it gives off the, I'm just like looking at it like this, it doesn't look finished, but I think that kind of part of the style of it is that it's meant to look like a kind of, you know, very strangely slapped together robot, cyborg kind of thing. Cyborg's I guess not right, but you guys know what I mean. It's kind of like a junk robot. I mean, that's kind of how it's supposed to look. So that is interesting. But then like these parts, like here, this detail part added onto the side is what was kind of making me think that like that was added on and not painted yet. So yeah, I think one thing that would definitely tie this together a lot more is to really go all in on the weathering a little bit more, go heavier with the weathering. In his email, he mentioned that he's having trouble getting the hang of weathering. I can completely understand that, but I think to definitely going heavier on this with the weathering will help tie it together a lot more, because like this part here, like this back half of this looks like there's like hardly any weathering or anything on it at all. Like all these details, just to really darken up like the details with some like heavier wash. You don't necessarily have to go as far as like trying to get into like oil paint rendering, but I think that would definitely look really good on this if you wanted to give that a try. It can be intimidating, but maybe try it on something else and then come back to this one maybe, because even though it's completed, you can always go back and work some more on it later. So maybe try just something smaller, simpler. Try a couple new weathering techniques just to kind of get a feel for it, and come back to this. Do some more weathering on it. I think it will look really nice. Because in general, I think I like the composition, the scene of this, just with like some kind of remains of some stuff there underneath. Looks cool, makes for a good kind of scene for that. It doesn't look necessarily, it kind of depends on the angle. Like from certain angles, it does kind of look like it's resting on top of that. But from the front, or like from this side, you did a pretty good job of kind of hiding how it's actually mounted onto there, and it does kind of look like it's floating along there, which is cool. So yeah, I think there's still some more work that you could do on it without like destroying it. So I wouldn't worry about like, I get the sense, and this happens to me too. It's like when you get to a certain point, you're like, I could do more, but I don't want to ruin what I've already done. So like you're kind of hesitant to do that. But I would say, I think it'll be worth the risk. You might, that's what I'm saying. Practice on something else first, get a feel for it, and then try some more weathering on this. I think it'll be a learning experience too, and it may not turn out exactly like how you want, but I think it would definitely improve the look of this piece too with some weathering, even if you end up not doing it exactly right. If it doesn't turn out perfect, I think it'll look good. The style of this build, I think, lends itself really well to not being so perfect. It's kind of like Machine & Krieger, whereas you're more of doing it as like a painting rather than like a scaled down version of like a realistic thing. You have to treat it as just like you're painting like a painting on like a canvas, right? And the imperfections sometimes can be what really makes it look good, is how imperfect it is. So I think you might find that you might be surprised at just how much better this can look by just kind of sloppying it up a little bit, I would say. So there you go. All right. Some Chinese dude said wiring could use work to expose. I don't know. I think the wiring looks fine. It didn't really stand out to me. Based off of what this is based off of, I think it fits the style. When you have for like Gunpla, if you're doing this as like a straight up like canon piece of like something from like the real Gundam universe, then yeah, maybe the wiring doesn't quite fit with that style. But for the style that he's going for, which, and I better pull up a reference here for you guys. So put that on screen. Here you go. So this guy here. I want to see this larger if we can. Good old archive.org. Which has the full manga here, it looks like. So that might not be right, because that's going to take us forever to actually go through all the photos. But so see, like this stuff just has wires and hoses and whatever all over the place. It's just kind of the style of these works. I wish I could remember what is it? It's like the clown. Someone help me out in the chat. What's the name of that? Damn. Starts with a K or something. Let's see if it's here. GAMP. That's what it is. I don't remember exactly how it's spelled. Something like that. There you go. GAMP. Well, We have better results with this one. There you go, like that. Exactly. So there you go. Yeah, I can see the inspiration for the colors now, leaving the head and the shield and the arm parts in that dark blue. Okay. I think I hadn't seen this particular image of it in a long time, so I'm kind of forgetting that those are the colors that it looks like in there. But yeah, okay. So anyway, there you go, guys. Now you know. All right. So thank you, Clifford. Yeah, let us know though how it goes. If you do end up going back and doing some more work on that, definitely will want to take another look at that. All right, now we'll finish up with Ben's work, and Ben sent a lot of photos of a lot of different kits. So it's just kind of photos of, basically, I think he didn't mention in his emails, but it seems like just kind of a mix of everything that he's done. So here is, we'll just go through these. So here's a HGUC Shinanju that's painted, well, and some of the photos are going to be a little bit mixed up. I'm sorry about that. There was some more photos of the Shinanju here. It's painted in this, what do you call it? Like color shift style paint where like under bright white light like this, it's not super obvious. You can see like a little bit of that color shift going on there, but under different lighting conditions, you can see it a lot more obvious there. So it just kind of depends on the light of like how much you can see that. It's pretty wild though. I think, like this style painting, and you see a lot of the builds that he submitted here, it's a lot of metallic stuff. And again, it's just not my cup of tea personally, painting metallic colors, but it's a wild color. And I mean, it looks smooth. So the application of it looks pretty good. It looks kind of grainy, but I think that's just the paint, I would imagine. So I'm not sure exactly what paint it's used. But it's a wild color of paint. I don't necessarily think that on this particular kit, I mean, it does look good on the Shinanju just because there's a lot of curved surfaces, but I'm just trying to think of another kit that it might be good on, that type of paint. I mean, I think it does work overall pretty well with the Shinanju design, but I'm just trying to think, what else would that look good on? I mean, it would look good on like something else, like non-Gundam, just because in the Gundam universe, like realistically thinking, it's kind of hard to imagine that anything would be like painted in that particular color. So, but I don't know. It's wild. The gold and silver accents, though, are pretty nice. I do wish that inside the gold parts there, that he would have painted that either, honestly, like black would have looked good. Inside the gold for the details of the sleeves, the sleeves detailing pieces around the chest, the skirts, the arms, the knees. So I think going in, doing a reverse wash on that, painting some enamel black over the top of there. Let's see. But yeah, I personally am not really too big of a fan of the faceplate being in gold. It's something I've talked about a lot in different builds in the past that I've seen. Painting the faceplate a different color from the rest of the head can work sometimes. Most of the time, in my opinion, I don't really like the look of it. This one, I think just keeping the faceplate in the same color as the rest of the armor is probably what I would have done, rather than painting that part in gold. But let's just go back here and take a look. So we got some other builds here, also in a kind of similar style, not in as color shifting color like that, but this would be the G Bouncer, is that right? Or Genoese Custom. I think Genoese Custom, I think is right. I could be wrong. I get these age suits mixed up a little bit. So you can see you have some nub marks and seam lines here on the backpack that were not cleaned up, and kind of the same thing on the back leg, nub marks. That's the thing about metallic painting, is that high gloss is going to show mistakes like that even more so than if you were just to do like a regular flat finish, just like a normal paint finish, flat colors, matte finish. So got to look out for that. There you can see the glowing effect. So I think he used maybe some fluoro paint for the eyes or something, just to make those glowing more. So that's cool. But I think this like kind of all silver color scheme does work well with this particular design, just because the original kit is like basically all white. So it's basically changing all white for all silver instead. And I think that works out fine. So that looks pretty good. There's something going on with the shield, which I can't really tell. Also, it's like got some tape on it or something. It's kind of interesting. So I'm not sure what that is. Then we have this one is also from Gundam Age. What was it? I think this is the Build Fighters version of that, or Build Divers version of that. Yeah, drawing a blank on the name of it. Sorry. But again, with this one, I think that just basically swapping the blue for metallic blue. Again, as far as like color scheme choices go, I think that works well for this one. So like I think this is probably one of the best ones of the bunch, as we'll see as we're making our way through. There's a lot of builds in here, but I think this one's definitely one of my favorites of them, because I think just the design is really well suited for a metallic paint job. This is one thing that I've talked about before, is that I could be wrong, but I believe these are probably a lot of these are maybe some of his first painted builds, Ben's. And like metallic painting, I think I don't exactly know why, but you see a lot of people who are new to painting want to do more metallic painting. It's not as often you see people who have like been painting for a long time to do metallic paint job, unless it's like for a very specific thing, like a metallic red on a Shinonju, which is like a pretty common thing, or I don't know, something that like a metallic gold on a C3PO kit or something, for example, something that I guess is kind of a little bit more realistic, I feel like. Whereas a metallic paint like this on a lot of builds, it doesn't really look realistic. Like here, for example, we'll look at this Leo here, for example. The application of the paint itself is, looks nice and smooth. You got some nice, cool colors on there. It doesn't look realistic though, and so that's fine. Some people like a more realistic look, and some people, like a more stylistic look. And if you like prefer more stylistic, then metallic paints are great for that. But it seems like there is more of a appeal to do metallic paints by people who are newer to painting, I feel like. It's just kind of what I've observed in my experience. But the thing is that metallic paints are not always easy to apply. So like you have bits on here where it looks like on the shield, for example, maybe the paint's pooling a little bit, getting like a little bit thicker in some sections. So it's harder to get like a very nice, consistent application of the paints in some cases like that. Also, like we saw with the other one, things like nub marks, if your kit is not completely sanded smoothly, all that stuff's going to stick out. Like up here on the shoulder, this tiny little divot right there is from where the gate mark was on that. So stuff like that's going to show. And then like here where the arm is kind of split open a little bit. So it's things like this where, and I'll see it a lot, because when I do contests and things like that, people who are maybe new to painting, number on one hand, are drawn to doing metallic. And I think just because, they think a big robot, it's made of metal, I'm going to do a metallic paint job on it. I get that thinking, but the trouble with that is, metallic painting, to do it really well, is not easy to do. So if you're a beginner, you might not have the experience to really pull it off, to like really look as good as you want it to sometimes. But I think in general, these are definitely pretty good, even if you are a beginner. Like I said, I think Ben didn't mention in his emails, but I would imagine some of these are like some of his like first paint jobs. And I think overall, as far as like relatively new to painting and doing metallic colors, these do look pretty good. You know, there's certain things like the little nub marks and things like that that you can notice, you can pick out, but like this one I quite like. And this one, I think the colors work really nice for that. There's some more though. If we go down here, we also have a 30 minutes missions kit. This one as well, I think the 30 minutes missions lends itself pretty well to like all metallics, and I think this one definitely seems like it's a little bit later one because you can see more rather than kind of like the all one color. It's more of a mix of the red and silver, and it looks like there's red and silver and chrome. It's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like this silver is different from like this chrome used for that joint. It could just be just the light kind of hitting it differently, and so it's kind of giving that effect. But again, here, like you can see nub marks on like the elbow joint, on the base of the handle of the gun, for example. So just things like that, that, you know, you're still going to be able to see it, even if you were to just like regular, if this frame part was just like a matte gray, kind of normal color instead of silver, you'll still be able to see that, but it's going to be really like in your face with a metallic, because when that light hits that, you're going to see like a perfectly shiny surface. Like here on this part right here, you have the light hitting that, so it's really lighting up this silver color, very bright. And right at the front of that shadow right there is a sink in the plastic. So that's, you know, if that was matte, you probably wouldn't notice that at all, but because it's metallic, you can notice that. And the only way to fix that is it's either a sink or a pool, because like over here on this red, you can see where the paint's pooled a little bit, how that color is not super consistent. You like lighter and darker areas from that clear red pooling a little, it looks like. But I don't think that that's what's going on here. I'm pretty sure that's probably a sink in the plastic is what it looks like. You either have to put some putty on that and sand it, or just sand it. But just kind of, those are the things that you really, if you're going for high gloss, if you're going for metallic, you have to really pay a lot of attention to stuff like that, to try to hide that stuff. Do your best to hide that, because once the light hits it, it's any imperfections are just going to be glaring. So that's why I say it's not easy to do. Here we have, this is a what is it? I was trying to blank on the name earlier. Now it's lost me again. Hexagear, that's what it is. Thank you. That Hexagear kit. This was one of the first Hexagear kits. I forget the name of it. Kind of like antlion kind of styling on this. The colors on this one, I mean, obviously this is another one that I think this design would just look kind of much more natural in a, you know, just kind of matte finish. I don't know if the metallic colors really suit the design of this one, especially like mixing up the metallic blue and then like the pink for these parts. It ends up looking a little bit kind of toyish. So again, I don't know the intent. That could have been intentional. It's kind of hard to know, but one way or the other, whether it was intentional or not, I think the mix of the silver, the metallic blue, and like these pink bits do end up making it look a little bit like a toy, rather than like a model of like a actual like machine. If this is meant to be like an actual scale version of a machine, which is used for, you know, fighting or whatever it's used for, you know, it's got guns and stuff on it. So let's just say fighting. With this particular kit, I think you could make it look not necessarily like a machine used for fighting, but maybe for like construction or something like that. Like this is a robot that's used for clearing space for, you know, like a settlement or whatever. It's used for like cutting down trees or something. I don't know. You could go that route with it, but she's got a gun in her hand, so just assuming it's supposed to be a weapon of war. But again, we got the fluoro green used for the eyes there, even on her. All right, now you got a Barbatos. This one, HD kit. So again, you got the seam line there on the underside of the arm, metallic colors. So a lot of this is just kind of the same. My critique or my feedback on these is going to be similar, because I think these are all probably done around the same time, generally. Like, so you can see that blue pooling a little bit there on the chest. It's got some seam lines there on the arm. And the pose can be tweaked a little bit, but in general, I think it's an interesting concept to turn the backpacks into like a flight system, essentially. I think you could like emphasize that a little bit more by adding some more parts to this, like grabbing some kit bash parts from some other IBO kit or something like that, adding some parts onto there to make it, to kind of really emphasize that these are supposed to be like kind of jetpack kind of features for it to be able to fly. I think it's a cool idea. I think you could go a little bit further with it even, and maybe just tweak the pose a little bit. But as a concept, I think it's interesting. So I like that aspect of this. Again, here, this is the problem with the IBO kits. I feel like IBO kits are they're a bit of a double-edged sword. They have a lot of nice detail, which is great. They have almost a full inner frame in an HD kit, which is great. I mean, it's great if you like that. It's not necessarily, it doesn't really add much to like the kit in general, but it is definitely an interesting feature of the kits. The bad side is that they tend to be, a lot of them are kind of sticker heavy, as in they're missing a lot of color apps in the parts, and they have a lot of seam lines on them, and a lot of seam lines going through detailed areas. So they have a lot of detail, but then they have a lot of seam lines going through those details, which is, like I said, it's a double-edged sword a bit. So like here on these side skirt bits, you have seam line going all the way down. That's the trouble with HDIBO kits. Here's another one. For example, this is another one though where I think the color scheme does work really well with the design, because it's a design that you basically just swap the colors. So instead of like gray frame, green armor, you have silver frame, this like metallic maroon purplish color for the armor. So where it's a mobile suit where it's originally just kind of all one color, basically, swapping that to a metallic color is usually going to be a good fit. And the same thing here with the Grimgird. So just swapping out all the red for metallic red and the silver frame. What I think would have looked really cool on this, on the Grimgird, do the frame in that metal, in that kind of chrome kind of color, but then not everything. So like these parts here in just like a matte finish white. It's like the shin parts. And then like the biceps maybe like in white, and then the gun not being in the same color as the frame. That's another thing, other kind of pet peeve of mine, when the weapon is the same color as the frame. I always try to make them slightly different colors. Even if I'm going like gray frame, gray weapon, I'll make the colors slightly different, just so it doesn't look like they're like made out of the same material, you know. But yeah, I think if the weapon was a little bit different color, okay, there we go, and would have kept like not metallic, but just like a matte white for like these parts, mixing up a little bit, like we saw with Mike's build earlier, how he had like, it's mostly like a semi-gloss kind of satiny matte finish, and then like a couple of parts of metallic, basically doing like the inverse of that, having like mostly metallic with like a couple of parts of satin matte kind of type finish. I think would look cool. Something to try in future builds. So here is a non-metallic build here, this one, and pretty interesting, of the Gym semi-striker, the Gym striker. I forget which one was the P Bandai one. I think this is just the Gym striker, right? Yeah. So really interesting in that he basically used that orange color to fill in like all these details here. It makes for a really interesting look. Again, it definitely gives it a more stylistic look over a realistic look. Where like it's got the just regular matte finish, which would indicate more like going for a little bit more realistic. But then like the actual like color choices using all that orange accenting on there definitely is going to give it a more stylistic look. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Of course, that orangish yellow goes well with that dark green naturally. You have a little bit of metallics in here thrown in for these thruster details on the back, so that looks good. I like that. So nice work on those. Pose is pretty good. I know it's an older kit, so it's probably not the easiest kit to pose. I'd imagine this is that's probably about the best you can do with that kit. It's a pretty old one, so to get it to be in any sort of like dynamic looking action pose is probably easier said than done. But I think that's looking pretty good. And the shield does look nice, even though it's just kind of there just because I would say you painted it, you like the shield, but you didn't want to have it on the actual kit. So, you just want to kind of still want to include it in there. So just having it down there. I think one thing that you could do, which would look pretty cool, actually, would be to cut a hole in the base. Let's see if I can find a better picture showing it here. That'd be kind of hard to show exactly what I mean, but like try to cut a hole in the base to have the shield look like it's actually like stuck down in the base. So like if you're imagining like the scene in reality, like you threw the shield down and like stuck into the ground and then is jumping up and doing this thing. I think that could look cool rather than the shield just kind of like resting there as it just kind of takes you out of the scene a bit. Like if you're imagining like this as like a robot's actually doing this scene and then you just kind of have the shield just kind of there. But if you some sort of like worked the shield into the scene a little bit by just having it stuck in the ground or something, I think that could look cool. Let me try something like that. And I think we have a couple more. Oh, this was the last one. There's also maybe one or two more. This is the Yokohama Gundam. No secret that it's not a design that I like. I do not like the design of this version of the RX-78-2. Way too crazy on the panel line details on this design-wise. But one thing that I like about your build of it, though, is that you didn't separate the colors. So like the original design has like two-tone blue and like two-tone reds and everything. And it just makes it an already busy design just with all the panel lines everywhere. It just makes it even more busy by then breaking up the colors as well. So making it like one solid blue, one solid red actually is a little bit better in my opinion, because then at least it makes the design not quite as busy. You still have all the panel lines everywhere, but at least it's like just all one color. The blue is a little bit dark. For my opinion, I would have gone just slightly lighter on the blue. But that's just a personal choice. And also the use of it's either like a light gray or silver or something like that for the panel lining on the weapons. And it looks like there's a little bit like on the hand here as well too. That's something too. People ask me about that from time to time. Like when they have a part that's really dark colored, how should they panel line it? Generally, I would say just don't panel line it. Just do black, even though it's going to be really hard to see because that part is not black. I think it's just a dark gray. So even if you do black on there, it's going to be really difficult to see. So either you just do black and, even though it's barely noticeable, it's still slightly noticeable, or just don't do it at all. Because you'll get, if the details are deep enough, you'll get, just because the part is dark colored, you'll get natural shadows. So like here, you can see, because like the entire point of panel lining is to simulate shadows between panels of armor. So like this is meant to be like there's one panel of armor here and one panel going around it here, and there would be a slight gap between them, and that's where you're seeing a shadow and or dirt and dust that just kind of gets in there. That's what panel lining is supposed to simulate. But with this, obviously your shadow would not be glowing silver. So again, that's just kind of doing it like this is a stylistic technique and not a realistic one. So if you're going for realism, it's not realistic. But if you're just going for style, then that's a whole other thing. But you can see even here where he didn't add silver, you can still see the details because there's just natural shadows created there because it's a dark color. If you wanted to make that more defined, if you really want to be able to see those details more, one thing you can do is dry brushing. So rather than highlighting the like panel lines or like the details with like a silver paint like this, you can try just some dry brushing. Then that gets into weathering though. If you want it to be clean and not weathered though, then you might not want to do that. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. These are the choices you have to make. And there it is with the glowing eyes. Okay, I think this is the last one. We have one more picture of this build, which we saw earlier, and now you can see the shield a little bit better. Yeah, I'm really wondering what's going on with that shield. Some kind of, yeah, it looks like there's some kind of tape or something on that. I'm not sure. Maybe use like a metallic tape to kind of give it a different effect, but I don't know. Interesting. And then the base. We've seen this, I think, in earlier photos, but here's the work in progress, what he did with the base. So I think that's using some fluorescent paint, the same fluorescent paint he's using like for the eyes on the builds and stuff, but just to paint in the details on the action base there. So then when you're taking your dark photos, it looks like that, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And the Gerber Tetra here. Cool kit. One that I actually have in my backlog. I've not built it yet, so it's on my to-do list someday in the future. But I do like the design. Would really love if they would make a master grade of this. That'd be awesome. Anyway, yeah, again, I think the metallic red works well for this design because the original design is just solid red, basically. So just changing the solid red for solid metallic red, I think it works well. In pretty much the same criticisms that I would make or advice that I would give you for this would be the same. I think you could have done a little bit more detailed painting on this. You have these little details here, where you could just get a little hand paint, just get some like a small bottle of Tamiya silver or something in enamel paint, and just hit that. Actually, like a titanium silver works really well for that. Just a little bit of hand brushing there, just bloop, on that little circle, this little vent here on the side of the leg, just give that a little brush. That's all, easy peasy, just to bring out some of those little details. I would have gone, again, like I said earlier, this silver for like the frame and details on the kit, and the same silver used for the gun. I would have gone with 2 different colors of that. And you got the seam line there on the gun and all that kind of stuff like we've been talking about. So don't need to keep continuing to hammer the same points home, but I think the application of the red on this one does look better than we've seen on other ones, though. I'm not really seeing too much of like the paint pooling there. Right here, that looks like it's probably another sink in the plastic, I think. I don't think that's the paint. I think that's the plastic. So again, a case of you have to do the prep work ahead of time to get rid of that, so that that's not shown in the paint. Yeah, it doesn't look like paint there. I think that's plastic. But no, overall, the consistency of the red looks pretty solid on this one. So I would say this is maybe one of your more recent works, probably. And it looks like two-tone there. So this is kind of like an orange red and then like the darker red. So the two-tone reds also look nice. So very cool. All right. So that is a lot of stuff. Let's see. Sorry. Uh-oh. Now it's going to be going with that. Let's see. There's 2 of me. That's going weird now. Okay. So something weird happening with that. Sorry, guys. I don't know. I just pressed something wrong. Anyway, so that is all for today. Thank you to all you guys. Thank you guys who submitted your works. And thank you to all my Patreon supporters. Sorry for the weird technical difficulties there at the end, and then with my mic crashing earlier. That was unfortunate, but yeah. So we saw a lot of really interesting works today. So thank you guys. For those of you guys who just came to just hang out and watch and listen, thanks for tuning in. If you have questions about anything, can reach out to me. If you want to ask like questions about the specific builds, I can put you in touch. I can either ask them and relay that information to you, or I can put you in touch with the builders if you guys wanted to talk with any of those builders about their particular build in more detail. But they're all, I believe all of them are around in my Discord server too, which is also just part of my Patreon reward system. So if you guys are interested, like I said, just check the link down below. Shaka's there. Hey, what's going on, Shaka? See you next time. And True Brit, thank you guys for coming to hang out. Till next time, this Friday, we will be announcing the next contest on the USA Gundam TV channel. So make sure you watch the live stream with Adam and I on this Friday morning. We will have that announcement for you guys. So look forward to that. In the meantime, I've got a couple of reviews I'm working on for you guys and a bunch of stuff I'm building up. So always more stuff to come. See y'all later. Bye-bye.